Ahoy game makers, today I want to talk about a principle that seems kind of obvious, but we'll get to why it's interesting. It's just to fix your bugs. When you find a bug, you should fix it. And what's caused me to make this video is that I'm on a bug fixing stint myself for Super Space Galaxy, and I realised how easy it is just to ignore bugs even, because bugs by their nature are almost anomalies, and it's easy when you're playing a game just to ignore the bugs because they just don't fit your worldview of how the game works, and it would be sort of expensive to notice them. And that's another reason you can ignore bugs sometimes, because it is expensive to notice them. Like, seeing a bug could mean hours of fixing, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm just going through bug after bug, constantly wondering what I'm fighting for, and then I remember that actually I'm making a pretty well-polished game that people seem to like. But let me show the bug that started all this. So it all started when I noticed that if I kept going into encounters in the game, once in a while enemies would just do this big jerky movements where they're not supposed to do that. They would kind of move out of formation. They're designed to stay at a certain range from you and shoot projectiles in a fairly fair way. But here they would kind of just suddenly inexplicably do this jerk, and there's a couple of reasons that could happen. So to begin with, I just kind of ignored it. I thought that, I don't know what I thought, right? It's a weird thing. And I had to dig into why it was happening, because I wanted to gear things up for a release. And part of the trouble here is that once you've gotten into the habit of fixing bugs, you start to realize how many bugs your game has. Like, if it took a lot of work to make, it can be easy to overvalue it, and actually you get the hard job of just fixing bug after bug, just wondering when it's going to end.
I keep killing and killing, but there are so many of them.
Over time, though, I found that following this policy really does make a slicker, better game, and at some point you end up just being able to play a nice, pleasant experience, and people will say your game is polished, and it does seem to be worth it in the end, but boy, just getting serious about bugs is not for the faint of heart. I know John Romero himself, the Doom guy, has said, fix bugs, basically. I always like the line from him. I do have a book about Doom behind me. I don't know if you all can see that sometimes in the background. Masters of Doom back there. But yeah, I've tried to follow John Romero's approach of fixing bugs. It's kind of ironic. I know a lot of the bugs in Doom have been teased out over, the decades, but it took a long time. I don't really like the term bug, because it makes the bugs feel like there's some alien influence that comes in from outside the system to menace or otherwise perfect programming. And I think the real truth is that these are very much the bugs within. These are the signs of your own imperfection coming to haunt you. And the bugs really are just the unintended consequences of your own programming.
I'm you! I'm your shadow!
As a side note, I remember that somebody asked me what bugs looked like when I was a kid. That was... I don't know, is that a dumb question, or is it a really good question? I don't even know. Just leave something in the comments, I guess. Maybe the hardest part of bugs is just noticing them and knowing what they are and accepting that they exist. Sometimes I take screenshots of bugs just to put it on my other monitor and prove to myself that the bugs do truly exist and I didn't just imagine them. But, forcing yourself to acknowledge them and just knowing what they are is a big help. I find once you know what the problem is, it becomes a lot easier to come up with a solution rather than just thinking this game's not good enough or something vague. You're never going to get anywhere with that. And finally, we come to the interesting part of this policy, which is just the fact that doing it in practice for real when you don't want to is the hard part, really. Like they say in The Matrix, there is a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. And so my revolutionary suggestion here is just that we actually do this stuff in practice. If you've worked with other people at some companies, you've probably found that, if you recommend fixing a bug, people don't always like it. They'll say it's not worth fixing, or I've even had people tell me it's not a real bug sometimes, even when it absolutely is a real bug. Just any excuse. So not everybody actually does this in practice, even though it seems like, in principle, it's a bit of a no-brainer that you should fix bugs. So it just depends how principled you are, I think. I get that you shouldn't always fix every bug, but I think by and large people lean in the lazy direction when it comes to following this policy actually for real in practice. And there you have it. So if you follow this policy, you'll probably find that you start with an avalanche of bugs. You'll notice all sorts of annoying little niggles. Each one of them may be tough to fix, but over time you'll find that your game keeps getting better and better, and if you just have a ruthless policy for bugs, you will end up with a much more polished piece of software, which I think we need nowadays, given that there's already plenty of games to play. Most indie game devs never finish their game. Why? No structure, no accountability, and no support. That's why I'm opening 5 private coaching spots to help devs get unstuck and finally finish their game. Message me game plan in my Discord and let's chat.